Good afternoon, everyone. I'm journalist Mike Sainato for Real Progressives, and I have a special afternoon show for you today. Today, my guest is Georgia congressional candidate Lisa Ring. Thank you, Lisa, for coming on this afternoon. So, can you start off by telling our viewers a little bit about your background and what inspired you to run for Congress?
Sure. I've been involved in activism and politics for over 30 years. More recently in Georgia, I've been organizing throughout the county and throughout the first district here in Georgia, organizing Democrats, forming committees, and also working on a strategy to get people to run for office locally and to support them when they do. All of this was prompted with Bernie Sanders. Excuse me. About a year and a half ago, I decided that I wanted to be a delegate for Bernie Sanders because, like millions of people, he opened my eyes to the power that each one of us has to engage and to make change. And it was at that time that I realized, instead of sitting behind the scenes, I wanted to be a part of making the decisions and leading the changes that I wanted to see.
And can you just give us a little bit of background about your district? I know your Republican opponent ran unopposed his last election. Why do you think that the Democratic Party has really kind of abandoned, or given up your congressional district, and what are you hoping to, do about that?
Yes, I live in a highly Republican district, and it seems that we continue with the same strategies over and over again. And what prompted me to want to run for office in this district is that now is the time for change. Now is the time for people to be talking about the issues that matter to them. And the party may not see this fully, but as a Bernie delegate, I saw firsthand. What people relate to are leaders talking about the issues that actually affect their lives. They don't care about the political posturing and argument over party. They care about how their lives are directly affected by what's happening. In this district, we have many Democrats who say, oh, we can't win unless we run a centrist Democrat, somebody who appeals to Republicans as well as Democrats. From the beginning, I've said that's not true. What we need is somebody who stands on their values and who's willing to fight. I am having to convince both parties that that is the way to go, but the people of this district have been helping me because they've been enthusiastic, they've been advocating, and the issues that I am focused on, things like healthcare, are at a crisis point right now. The legislator that we have is one of the biggest opponents to the Affordable Care Act. He is on television almost every day talking about how Obamacare is imploding and trying to strip healthcare from just about half of the constituents in his district. So the time is ripe for change, and the time is right for us to not keep making the same mistakes. My message is one that doesn't involve the party, it involves the people of this district. And I think that's where the change is coming.
And you have the city of Savannah in your congressional district, but there's also a lot of rural areas. So what is your strategy in engaging the communities in the city of Savannah and engaging the communities in the rural parts of your district? And how do you balance the needs, and what have you seen the differences between the two?
I've seen that although the issues, there are differences regionally, we are all basically concerned with the same issues. We all want to make a living wage. We all want to have health care. We all want to have homes. We want to be able to take care of our families and live with dignity. However, my strategy is going to be different because I will be reaching out to every portion of this district. It's crucial that we reach out to rural Georgia as well as urban Georgia, places that people don't want to go and they don't want to listen. It is a crucial part of my campaign that we get out there to every area of the district and we listen to people and we're involved in the issues that they're fighting for. I've been doing this for about 2 years now anyway, even before I started the campaign. Being supportive of organizations and organizing, I think that it's important that I get out there and talk to people and represent what their real needs are instead of, as my opponent is doing, representing the interests of large corporations. We've had that for years now, and we are suffering because of it. So my strategy is to organize every precinct of this district, kind of micromanage the district, and to talk to everybody, get them involved, and see how this affects their daily lives, and they need to stand up and do something about it.
And I know you mentioned a couple days ago, the congressman now, Buddy Carter, he disinvited you and disinvited other people from town halls. So can you explain a little bit about like what happened there, and what can you speculate as to why he is cutting, shutting down his town halls, and what are you doing to counter that?
Well, there's a history there with town halls and my opponent. The last town hall that he had in Chatham County was pretty contentious. People were angry. They were asking him not to take away their health care, and he basically said, I don't care what you want. I'm going to do what I want to do. So he has to answer to his constituency, and he does not want to do that. These town halls, he had 9 of them scheduled. And we are quite organized in the area. We have so many people who jumped on getting those tickets. Now we had to get tickets. You didn't have to pay for them, but you did have to get them in advance. Some people waited up until midnight to get the tickets first thing so they wouldn't be sold out, and got tickets to every event. The reason that they did that was because they had questions that they wanted to ask, and you don't always get the chance to ask at one event, so they wanted to make sure they were at each event so that they would be heard and would be able to ask their questions. I got tickets to all 9 events because I wanted to hear what people had to say throughout the district. We just a couple of days ago received cancellations. I personally had the county that I live in and the 2 closest counties to me had our tickets canceled, saying that there were too many people, they were overbooked, and that the people who had signed up for more than one event, their tickets had been canceled, but they had been left with some tickets for the less full events, which were a much further drive. I cannot speculate about the strategy there. I do know that my opponent does not like to answer to his decisions, and I do know that the audience was most likely confused in many areas. I will be attending the town hall in my county and the one closest to me, and we will be outside if we can't get in. So we will be present, and I'm sure the media will be there as well. The thing about this is that if it were a problem that there were too many people who were interested in going, then he should have either changed the venue and made it larger or added more dates so that everybody would be accommodated. It's our money that he's using to hold these town halls, and we should have access to him, and he should be accountable to us.
And can you speak a little bit about your campaign's efforts? You mentioned this in my previous interview with you about reaching out to marginalized communities that are normally ignored and don't have high voter turnout because of that. communities of color. How are you engaging and reaching out to those voters who in many instances the Democratic Party has left behind?
Well, the most important part of what I've been doing for the past 2 years is being involved and not just talking the talk, but walking the walk, being out there at the protests, being at every meeting, and really traveling around the district to be involved in what's happening. Right now, my message is you have the power to do something about your lives. And what I must do is be able to reach people. That's going to take a lot of work. My plan is to organize, we have about 100 volunteers right now this early in the campaign, but organize to reach out extensively to every small town, to every community, and talk about the issues that they care about, and most importantly, to listen. I think oftentimes politicians go into an area and talk about what they are going to do, and they don't listen to what the people in the community say their problems are that they have to deal with. I'm a very good listener, and I have been kind of on tour already, listening to what people have to say and coming up with solutions. We just very recently toured the Homeless Authority in Chatham County, which was very educational to me. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about their tiny house project for veterans, and now it's something that I can promote and support and get out there to the rest of the district. So as I meet with people and I learn about what they're doing and get involved in what they're doing, they're learning about our campaign and how we want to help make things better.
And when I interviewed you last, John Ossoff's congressional campaign was highly publicized. It was nationwide reporting. The Democratic Party poured I think $27 million into it. Basically, I know it's on the other side of Georgia, but what can you tell me about what the Democratic Party did wrong in an election like that? What lessons should it be teaching the Democratic Party and Democratic candidates, and what should be taken away from that campaign and that election?
I think what the Democratic Party did wrong is what parties in general do wrong. They showed up at the last minute and expected everybody to jump on board instead of being there already, making the changes that people could see and inspiring people to continue with that. The amount of money that was spent was ridiculous. I don't believe that a campaign has to spend that amount of money to be successful, but we have to be smart about the way our campaigns are run. I think instead of spending money on mailers to people so that every day they're getting a big piece of mail about the candidate, spending money on actually getting into the community ahead of time, not days before the election, but ahead of time, and organizing and having some genuine effort made in the campaign is what's needed. We have a problem with party politics when we approach people only when we want them to vote for us, when we're not out there in the communities proving ourselves as people who want to change things for the better for everybody. So I think that that's what the Ossoff campaign did wrong. And then when they hit full steam ahead with the money and the volunteers from everywhere, they were talking to the same people over and over again, until the point that people were, disgusted. They didn't want to talk about it anymore. They didn't want to see it on TV anymore. They were just tired of it. And even in other parts of the country that was happening. It wasn't just in that district. It was all over the country and here in Georgia in particular. There was an excitement there, though, that is needed. And if Democrats or progressives would rally around their candidates that way in other elections, we could certainly win. That's for sure.
And your district has a lot of coastline, with Georgia's beaches and Georgia's coastlines. Can you talk a little bit about the environmental issues facing those communities? Some problems you've seen arise in those communities, and what do you think? What would you like to see be done about them?
We are the entire coast of Georgia in the district, and environmental issues are very important. The first issue is that we need to accept that climate change exists, and most of Georgians do agree with that, which is a start. Some of the issues that we deal with are offshore drilling, sonic testing, which affects the habitats in our oceans. We are dealing with issues of clean water. We're dealing with pipelines still being built, one directly through the town that I live in. And we've fought this. We've fought this for years. We've held the meetings, and we've shown up for the hearings on eminent domain and so on. So we are already engaged in the fight, and we are making some strides. In this district, we have 4 military bases, and one of them is Fort Stewart, which has a huge collection of solar panels on base, and much of the energy is coming from solar energy. We're seeing a big shift here in renewable clean energy sources. So that's a positive stride. But there is so much to be done, and it involves keeping our waters clean, keeping our land and our air clean, and those are some of the most important issues.
And Lisa, before we go, is there anything else you would like to let our viewers know about your campaign or about running campaigns in general? This
is really an experience, and it's one that is mostly positive, a few negative. It's not easy, that's for sure. But what I will say is that since the election last year, we're seeing an energy and an enthusiasm that really makes me hopeful for the future, that we can change things, that we cannot get bogged down in what it means to be a Democrat or what it means to be a progressive. And we can all stand for Medicare for all, or we can all stand for a living wage. And what is very important to me is to empower people, just regular people, to stand up and have a voice. That is the shift that we're seeing, and that we've seen for at least a year now. That is what makes me hopeful, because when we all stand up and we voice our opinions and we are empowered, we change things.
Well, thank you, Lisa, for joining us this afternoon. And for everyone watching, after the broadcast ends, I will post her candidate or campaign website. So if you want to check out, her platform or send her donations, it'll be in the comments section. Thank you again, Lisa.
Thank you. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.